There are three main ways of animating using ActionScript, and there's actually a fourth way as well, but we're not going to talk about that just yet. But the three ways we're going to talk about are using an interframe event, using a timer, which if you're familiar with ActionScript 2, a timer would be the equivalent of the set interval function in ActionScript 2. So we have an interframe event, a timer, and thirdly, using the tween class. Hopefully you're familiar with creating motion tweens, and we can actually create motion tweens using ActionScript as well as creating them on the stage or in the timeline. So we're going to start off by talking about creating animations using the interframe event. Well, what exactly is the interframe event? How does that work? Well, the interframe event is an event in ActionScript that basically causes another function to run over and over again at the current frame rate. For example, our frame rate, as we see in this new file, is 12 frames per second. So if we create an interframe event that's going to cause another function to run, it will cause that function to run 12 times every second. So if we draw an oval, let's give it a color. If we draw an oval on the stage, and then we create a function that causes this oval to move over just a little bit, but then we create an interframe event that causes that function to run over and over again, 12 times per second, then 12 times per second we'll be telling it to move over again a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And again, that will happen 12 times per second using that interframe event. So that's what we want to do. So in order to get this to function properly, we first need to save this as a symbol and give it an instance name. So with our circle selected, let's go ahead and move it back to the left side of the stage. We'll hit F8 to convert it to a symbol. We're going to make it a movie clip symbol, and let's go ahead and call this circle and click on OK. Now in order to be able to access this circle using ActionScript, we need to give it an instance name. So with that circle selected, we'll go down here to our properties, click in the instance name text field, and I'll call this circle_MC. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rename layer 1. We'll call it circle. We'll lock that layer. We'll create a new layer using the insert layer button. We'll double click on that layer name and we'll call this layer actions. And we're going to put all of our ActionScript on this layer. So let's lock our actions layer, click on frame 1 for the actions layer, and hit F9 to open up your actions, or option F9 if you're using a Mac. And looks like I need to resize this. There we go. Okay, so now what we need to do is simply point to the circle and tell it to move over 12 times per second. So let's first create the function that we're going to use. Let's say that every time we run this function, we want the circle to move over 3 pixels. So we'll create a function. Let's call this function moveCircle. And an interframe event is actually going to cause this function to run. So anytime you have a function that's triggered by an interframe event or by any other type of event, we need to put an event variable inside the parentheses here, even if we're not going to use that event variable inside the function. So what I usually call mine is just simply e, a lowercase e, and then we need to strict type this. We'll type colon event with a capital E. So close your parentheses there, and then this function is not going to return any values. It's simply going to perform an action. So we'll type colon void here, and then we'll type in our opening and closing curly brackets for this function. Now this moveCircle function is simply going to point to our circle and tell it to move over 3 pixels. Okay, now if we add an interframe event to the circle itself, then the circle itself will be triggering the interframe event to run this function. And so what we can actually access the object that's triggering this event using this e variable that we created here. And the way we do that is we say e dot current and then target with a capital T. e.currentTarget. Now what we're going to do is, in order to move our circle to the right, all we need to do is increase the x value of the target. And if we want to increase it by 3, well, first we need to point to the x variable, or the x value, the x coordinate, and we do that by typing .x. So this would be the same thing as saying circle_mc.x, because the current target, is going to be the object that triggered this event to occur, which is going to be circle_mc. So again, e.currentTarget.x is the same thing as saying circle_mc.x. But the reason we can put current target here is because we might have different objects triggering this particular function. Either way, you can type in circle_mc, you can type in e.currentTarget. Either way, it will work. So e.currentTarget.x, and we want to increase the x value by 3. So we can say plus equals 3. And this plus equals here is basically the same thing as saying x equals x plus 3. So all we're doing here is we're incrementing x by 3. Okay, so we've created the function, but until we actually tell this function to do something, it's not actually going to run. It's just going to sit here and do nothing. So before we create the actual function, let's create our interframe event for our circle. So we'll say circle_mc dot add event listener. Anytime you're creating an event in ActionScript 3, you're going to use the add event listener method. And then inside the parentheses for the add event listener method, we're going to type in first the type of event, and then second the function that we want that event to trigger. Well, the type of event that we're looking for here is an interFrame event, and an interFrame event is a part of the event class. So we'll type event with a capital E dot, and then interFrame, enter_frame with all capital letters. Okay, then we need comma, space, and then the second thing that is expected inside the parentheses here is the name of the function that we want this interFrame event to trigger, and we want it to trigger this move circle function. So we'll type in move circle. Close your parentheses, put a semicolon to end your statement. Okay, now just to review, the event here is an interFrame event which causes this function to run over and over again at the current frame rate, which right now is 12 times per second. So 12 times per second, this move circle function is going to run. Inside this move circle function, we're pointing to E, which is the event that triggered this function, which is this interFrame event here. And if we type in e.currentTarget, then we're actually talking about the object that we added that interFrame event to, and we added it to the circle_mc movie clip. Okay, so this current target is going to be this circle_mc movie clip. So we're telling the x coordinate of that movie clip to increase by 3 every time we enter the frame, or 12 times per second. So let's hit Control Enter or Command Return to test your movie. And there we go. We have a nice little animation of a ball moving across the stage. 12 times per second, this ball is moving over 3 pixels, I'm sorry. And so eventually it's going to run off the right-hand side of the stage here. So we can increase the speed of this either by increasing the frame rate of your file or by increasing this number right here. This number is kind of considered our speed. So if we double this, if we increase our x-coordinate by 6 every time, then when we test our movie, we'll see that it's moving twice as fast. And so that's how you animate using the interFrame event in ActionScript 3. So we can save our file. We'll go to File, Save As, and then in the files that you purchase or downloaded, you should find a Project Files folder, and in that Project Files folder, I'm going to save this as enter_frame.fla. So we'll save that, and we'll move on to the next video where we're going to talk about creating the same type of animation, but we're going to do so using a timer.